Hey, this is Ronnie with By Way of Charleston, and today I'm excited because we are going to make Callie's Hot Little Biscuits. So Callie is a local company here in Charleston that has become very popular over the past few years. And I have actually been, she's got a few restaurants downtown, and I've been to the restaurants, and her biscuits are phenomenal. And to make Callie's biscuits, she does ship all over the country. We don't do that. We just have her mix, and there are instructions on the back. So kind of how these go is it calls for the bag of mix, 6 tablespoons of butter divided, 2 ounces of cream cheese, and then 3/4 of a cup to a cup of buttermilk. So I have 3/4 of the cup already. If I need more later, then I will do that. But it starts off by saying that you need to take out of here 2 cups of the mix, so that then the rest of it you'll use as you're rolling out for your surface for flour. See, I'm already making a mess, but that's okay. That's kind of how home cooks are, right? And I'm gonna level this off because it's just what you should do when it comes to baking. Baking is sort of a science. I use chopsticks as my leveler. Just, hey, that's how it is. I'm not much of a baker, so this is kind of this is a big project for me to actually make biscuits, because this is not the thing I am phenomenally great at. It's a little bit too exact of a science for me. So it's one of those things that I'm like, eh. So the instructions do say then to 2 cups of the biscuit mix into the bowl, and then 4 tablespoons of butter. And so I have my cold butter here, and I went ahead and just cubed them up because then that'll be easier for me to start to mix in here. And it says to really, everybody that does biscuits say you have to do a snap with your fingers. Well, believe it or not, I actually cannot snap my fingers. Was never able to learn it. So I'm just crushing it, to be honest. But I get what they're saying. Like, I can feel it as, you know, it kind of feels like if I were snapping my fingers and getting it into pea sizes. So funny story, I'd never really learned how to snap or to whistle. I can't do either. Never have been able to. So I'm just mixing those in, getting them into real small pieces with my fingers. This is another reason why I'm not a huge baker. This is messy to me, and I don't like a lot of mess. So, I mean, I make a mess while I'm cooking, but I don't like to. So I can feel, I got a couple of big chunks still left in there. It kind of feels like I don't have enough butter in here, but I'm sure I do. That's what it calls for, right? I can also tell it's starting to melt a bit. So I might actually get a fork and work on this a little bit more so they're even smaller. I know some people like to do a little bit bigger chunk because the science of it is that in here, you know, in your biscuits, as the butter melts, you have these little pockets of butter that create, you know, air pockets and melt within the biscuit. So that's why you want to get them kind of pea-sized and get them pretty small. When I took home ec when I was a kid, instead of, you know, a fork like this, we had a pastry cutter that has the like handle thing. I could see where that would make this all easier. I do not have one of those. So I'm getting them pea-sized, and then the next thing she adds is 2 ounces of cream cheese. And I think that when you ever see Callie on interviews or anything like that, I think when she talks about her biscuits, the cream cheese is where she says the magic really is, that it makes a big difference within your biscuit. Because so basically what you're doing is when you're putting the butter in, you're gonna be like, there's not enough butter here. but then you add in the cream cheese, and that is kind of taking up for what you're lacking in the butter. And both of these I have still cold, so the cream cheese is a little bit harder to work with because it wants to stick together. But now it feels more like it should, as far as like pea sizes and having enough in it. And again, I feel like I'm just smushing it together rather than actually creating pea sizes. So that's why a fork is good here, to kind of like really break it up and get it mixed into your dry flour. And chefs on TV make this look so easy, but in all honesty, it's not. This is why I don't love to bake. But what I'm doing tonight, and the reason I am doing this, is because I had leftover rotisserie chicken, and what I did was I'm doing like a chicken and biscuits. That's kind of like sort of like a chicken pot pie, except for rather than pastry crust, the top's going to be Callie's biscuits, because I figured that would be pretty tasty. Plus, I had that, when you get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store and you have leftovers, if it's just me and Alan, we don't have children. So with the two of us, we always have leftovers, and you can't get rid of it. So I pulled, all of the meat off, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Like, it's just pulled dark meat. And, chicken and biscuits was the thing that I thought would be really great. So I'm gonna add in just a bit more of this flour that I have, so that for all of this flour that came off, that's my oven. I have my oven preheated at 400 degrees. And my chicken gravy, per se, I already kind of got that together. So I'm gonna make a little well here in the bottom. I'm gonna pour in 3/4 a cup of buttermilk. Buttermilk's good and thick, and this is gonna kind of bring all of this dough together. So I made my chicken gravy, basically. It's more like a chicken gravy ahead of time, and it is cooling on the counter. I wanted to, so it's fully cooked, so really all that's cooking is the biscuits. And then when it goes into the oven, the chicken doesn't have to cook. None of that has to cook itself. So it's very wet, and I don't think it's supposed to be this wet. So I am going to add a little bit more of the flour mixture. The thing I will say about this flour mixture is it's definitely very light and fluffy. Yeah, this is more the consistency I think we want. So it's kind of starting to ball up a little bit, and that's really the consistency I want. So now I can actually get my fingers in it and start to form the biscuits. And I know everybody does biscuits with a round cookie. So really, that's the rest of the bag. And I'm gonna pull it out. I don't have a round cookie cutter, so I am just gonna cut them. I mean, biscuits don't have to be round, right? I'm just gonna cut them. So there's my dough. And really, on here, I'm just bringing it together. And flattening it out. Got my rolling pin, flatten this dough out. So these are going to be very, like, they're not perfect, and I kind of like that with biscuits. So there, flatten them out, and I'm going to get my biggest knife, because all of the chefs say that if you put your cookie cutter in and you twist, you kind of seal the edges, and that makes them not actually cook up very well. So it's really, you just straight down and then pull out. So that's why I wanted to get a nice big knife so that I can do that and not have too much of like a twist that kind of seals these edges, because I want them to get all nice and fluffy. So you can see this is why baking when it's supposed to be perfect is not really my gig, because these are definitely not perfect. I got them probably a little thin, but I want to make sure it covers my whole pot pie. And I figure if I have a few left over to just bake, I will. So there's all of those. Pull that all off. See what big mess this makes? So this is my chicken gravy mixture. I actually even had like a leftover baked potato from the other night, so I put that in there too. I mean, why not? So I'm gonna just lay these guys all on top. I'm gonna let them touch, because if you were to put them in a skillet, you would actually get them pretty close to each other. They're pretty nice and flaky, even from the dough I can tell. So I'll have a nice layer of biscuits, and then I'll have a few left over to actually just bake up too. Then we'll even have just some biscuits. So there you go. So these guys, I'm all gonna take and just put on parchment paper and bake them as well. Just as little, take the littlest ones here and kind of form into. So all of these guys are just gonna be little biscuits. This one here, I'm gonna, sticky. Roll him out, just press him into a little round biscuit. So I'll put them all on a sheet, and then we'll have some extra biscuits too for breakfast in the morning. So all I'm gonna do is put this in a 400-degree oven, let them bake up, and then they'll be ready. And so we'll see how it turns out. All right, so it's been about 16, 17 minutes, and I'm pulling it all out of the oven. And as I was putting it in the oven, I remembered that I forgot to do something. I forgot to brush butter on the top of this thing. So it's not quite as pretty golden brown as it could be without that butter, but it still works well. So the back of the package calls for 2 tablespoons of butter to brush then over top of them, so they get that nice, pretty golden brown. But they fluffed up really nicely. They're gonna be good and tender. I can see the layers in them, and I think it's gonna be pretty delicious. But what I'm gonna do, one of these little ones here will be on the side. Could have been better prepared with giving you a test run on this. But I'm gonna take one of these, this little one right here. So on this one, I didn't actually use parchment paper because I just didn't want to pull it all out. So I sprayed the bottom with spray. It's cooking spray. That was what the word I was looking for. So I take this little teeny corner one and I smear a little bit of butter on it because it's been hot. Yep, that is a nice Callie's biscuit. Because this was a little corner one, it didn't fluff up quite as nice as these guys that were in the center. Because I rolled them out, I rolled them out about an inch. But if you did too, you would have bigger, not as many, but bigger biscuits on top. But that cream cheese definitely makes a difference in creamy and tastiness of the biscuit. So if you're willing to put in the work, I highly recommend it. You can do a lot of stuff with it. As you can see, like I've got a couple of little biscuits to put butter and jelly and jam on, or you can put it into a chicken and biscuits kind of dinner casserole. So I hope you guys try some Callie's biscuits and enjoy.